very important. So we start as always by giving acknowledgement and respect to the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere who continue to fight for their liberation. I was doing a talk on Friday, and I was inviting people to the Pan African Women's Day event. I was in Oakland Friday, and I was inviting people down there to the Pan African Women's Day event that we have there a week on August 1st, this coming Saturday. And one of the people asked me, do you have to get a permit for that to have it there? Because it's at Lake Merritt there. And I said, well, we asked Crazy Horse if we could have it there. And they didn't know who Crazy Horse was. So I had to explain to them the history of Crazy Horse. And Crazy Horse was a warrior in the Lakota group, the Oglala Nation in South Dakota, and was there under Chief Red Cloud. And Red Cloud had negotiated what Crazy Horse and many of the other people in that grouping considered unacceptable. A negotiation, a compromise with the U.S. government. And so Crazy Horse led a group of Lakota warriors away into the plains, and they ended up after them. This is the story of General George Custer, if you don't know it, in the Battle of Little Bighorn, where Crazy Horse and the band of Lakota warriors beat the crap out of Custer and killed all the crackers there that day and won that battle. Unfortunately, the U.S. military sent all of its resources after Crazy Horse, and they began to um, kill all the buffalo and surround them. And then this led to their starvation and eventual surrender. And of course, as is consistent with the custom of these terrorists, they, without any kind of due process, slaughtered Crazy Horse and slaughtered all the remaining members of the group. And to this day, it's not known what happened to his remains. But what the compromise was over was the Pahasapa, or the Black Hills, or what you probably call Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, the colonial name, Mount Rushmore. But they were fighting for that's a sacred land to the Lakota people. And of course, the Europeans wanted it. Obviously, they got it. And this was unacceptable to Crazy Horse. So, we give acknowledgement and spirit to that. And people Friday were like, what do you mean you asked Crazy Horse? I'm like, we asked the indigenous ancestors, and they said we could. They said they support Pan African Women's Day, so we're doing it. That's our permit to do it. That's our permit to do this right now. That's our permit to do everything we do in this backward cesspool empire that was stolen from them. And the reason why we have that spirit is because of our African ancestors who we talk to them all the time as well. And they told us, yes, absolutely, you should continue to work for your forward progress and liberation. You need no permission from the capitalists to do that. We are fighting to organize against them and overthrow them and defeat them eternally. So you have our permission, and we have given you all of the all of the information, all of the models, all of the schedules, all of the uh, schematics, everything that you need. And all you have to do is build and develop on that. So we are doing our absolute best to follow the uh, energy and direction of our ancestors, and we hope that you are doing the same. That's why you're here today. So thank you for joining us. And we start with just introductions. Our Ancestors' Voices, again, is sponsored by AAPRP, which is a revolutionary, independent, mass Pan-African political party based in Africa. And you should acknowledge and understand, or at least understand, that Kwame Nkrumah, in the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, laid out the strategy for the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And he defined what it is. It's a collection of all of the Pan-African formations on the ground throughout Africa who agree in one unified socialist Africa as the solution. He didn't say that any one group of people would be the AAPRP. He didn't say that what we have today is the AAPRP. It is, but it is not the AAPRP in its conception. It's the AAPRP in its conception is what I just described. all of the liberation movements united into one political party. We are not there yet. That's what we're working for. So the people who, like myself, who are here today, most likely will not even be here when we actually have an all African People's Revolutionary Party, an all African Committee for Political Coordination, an all African People's Revolutionary Army. And so this is why, for myself, I would never be discouraged by any challenges that we have today, because my responsibility is to continue to live my remaining days putting the pieces in place to move us closer to the actual all African People's Revolutionary Party. So that's why we are here. And this program is one of the things, because we will never have that until we win the hearts and minds. And so this is why we do this program every week. We've been doing it every week for 6 years, and we will continue as long as two things happen. People are still interested in this program, and we have the physical and mental ability to do it. And so some of those things we can control, some of them we can't. But the one thing we can control is that as long as we're able, we'll be here doing it. So we appreciate those of you who have been here from the beginning. We appreciate those of you who just joined today for the first time. We appreciate those who watch sometimes and don't watch and then watch again. We appreciate you who tell people about the program, invite people to participate in the program. All of these things are major contributions to us moving forward in our struggle for revolutionary Pan-Africanism, which is really just about freedom and forward progress for African people everywhere on the planet Earth, as well as all peace and justice loving people who want to see the world progress in a direction that gives peace to all of humanity. So thank you all for everything you do to contribute to that. This is Ajamu. I do this program every week. And my daughter, who is now Dr. Shakura, we do it together. We are both organizers in the APRP. Nothing is easy. Nothing worthwhile is easy. Nothing. If something's too easy, I don't trust it. You all know that. If something's so easy that it comes to you without any effort, you don't even trust that. You know that there must be something else behind it. And this work certainly is no different. It's not easy. It's very difficult. Shakur and I were just talking about how we've been struggling to organize these two Pan-African women's programs along with our comrades here in Northern California. And there's not nearly as many of us as there needs to be, and there's a whole lot more work than there should be. But we are not deterred. We are going to struggle forward. We invite you to participate in each of these programs. We'll tell you more about it at the end, as we always do. But to get us started on the topic today of why we have Pan-African's Women's Day, I'll turn it over to Shakura.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I echo everything that Baba Jamu said. We are so thankful that you all have rocked with us for so long. And as he already said, if this is your first time joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. We do hope that you will return. We hope that something is said today that fires you up or lights a flame that maybe you didn't know needed to be lit. Or we hope that maybe you get a bust of energy based on something that is said. However, today's program affects you, we hope that it will further enhance your ability to make a difference and to make this world a better place for all oppressed people. Ultimately, that is the goal. Hopefully, that means you will join some organization that is working for justice. So you can do that with other like-minded people. You should not be on a quest to try to change the world by yourself. Not only is that not realistic, it's not fair to you, because you deserve to have as many people unified with you, just like other people deserve to have you unified with them, so that we all can make a difference in changing this world. So let's talk about Pan-African Women's Day, right? And I just want to say, even though we are promoting two physical events that are taking place in California, in Oakland as well as in Sacramento, again, the Oakland is Saturday, August 1st. The Sacramento event is Saturday, August 8th. Okay, so right back to back, right behind one another. Even though we are promoting and talking about those events, in person, we are also speaking to this overarching base and concept of how Pan African Women's Day came to be. And we want to encourage you to join our YouTube page where you can check out not only the different recordings from past Pan African Women's Day international webinars. Correct me if I'm wrong, Babu Jamu, but I think it's AAPRPCA, the YouTube pages. I can double check that and let you all know. But yeah, definitely double check that on YouTube. And then not to leave out our website, the AAPRP-INTL.com also has some of our past recorded international webinar events as well. So as you all know, Pan African Women's Day is actually one of our institutions that we celebrate with wholeheartedness and with grace and dignity, just like we celebrate African Liberation Day. You hear us talking about Pan African Women's Day because we understand that without not only celebrating it and giving it attention and our utmost energy, it is also a grave part of how this organization functions and how we choose to operate ourselves in a way where we want to recognize the marginalized genders that exist within our organization structure, and also how some of the challenges that they are facing is still contributing to their limitation to be able to fully be present towards achieving our goal ultimately as a people, because they have some other disparities or some other barriers that are blocking them in addition to the main disparities that we're all facing, the main barriers that we're all facing. So just to give some context to this, I'm talking about how Pan-African Women's Day was started in 1962 in Tanzania. Right. And I want us to think about how, the reason that you all might be joining us every week is because you identify as being a person of color, or maybe you identify as being an oppressed person. Maybe you identify as being a non-male. Maybe you identify as being differently abled, right? Maybe you have a practice of spiritual or religion and you feel oppressed because of that. You feel discriminated because of that. Whatever your reason and cause for why you are joining us every week, or why you might start to join us every week, you should think about how you may be experiencing that one particular thing, but there are unifications that cause people to come together so that they can build bigger groups to be able to fight against multiple things, right? So I would give the example of African women and marginalized African people, right? Okay, so any African person will be fighting against white supremacy. They will be fighting against the colonization of their people. They will be fighting against the constant microaggressions, the racism that they experience on a day-to-day basis. Day-to-day basis. Anybody who's on this call, I doubt would disagree with that statement, right? What we need to think a little bit more deeply about, though, and this is what Stephanie Erding writes about in the Fighting to Colonialism books, is we also need to understand that for marginalized genders that are African and for African women, not only are they fighting white supremacy, colonialism, racism, as well as microaggressions, but they're also fighting, right? They're also fighting misogyny. And sometimes they're fighting it within the African community. Let's call it out. Let's call it out. When I'm walking down the sidewalk and men come up to me and say, you should smile, that's not okay, you all. And that's a great example of misogyny, okay? Because I think in these people's minds, my purpose and objective is to pleasure them and bring them joy. And I guess they enjoy seeing people like me smile. But we have to ask ourselves, who are we in a position to tell other people how to behave, first of all? A. B, maybe something bad has happened and I don't feel like smiling. And because I'm not your property, I don't have to do what you're saying to do. So we need to kind of think through that. Like, how are we perpetuating misogyny? We need to think about that, right? And I would say misogyny is definitely part of the problem. That's why Pan African Women's Day needed to be created, okay? We should also think about how marginalized African genders and African women are also fighting patriarchy, right? Which is not the same thing as misogyny, right? And we just had a seminar just last weekend talking about patriarchy, right? Again, it's a system that unfairly disadvantages one group of people, meaning the people who are dominant and hold the power. In this case, it would be male identifying, cis male identifying people. And in another case, it would be unfairly disadvantaging the group of people who are not seen to be dominant. So they are not seen to hold power. They are not seen to be respected or valued or promoted with respect or tolerated with respect. In fact, they are dehumanized because of the fact that society perceives them to not have power. Society perceives them to not be important. So why should we listen to someone who is not deemed and perceived to be important, right? Those are the concepts, right? So misogyny, patriarchy, sexism, these are all different things. They're all connected, but they're all very different. They're all very different. So we need to think about that. So how is a person going to be able to organize themselves and organize their people against white supremacy, colonialism, racism, microaggressions, if they're already fighting patriarchy, misogyny, as well as sexism, in addition to the four that I just named? That's seven things. And then if they're differently able, that's eight things. If they have a religion that is not appropriate, that's another thing. Like, you understand what I'm saying to you all right now? Like, these are the things we have to really think through, you all. How are we going to expect our comrades to fight with us when we are perpetuating the oppressions that they are very much trying to eradicate? How are we going to expect that of them? Is that fair of us to expect that of them? Why should they join our fight when we are oppressing them? Why? You need to think about that. You need to seriously think about that. And if you're not sure of where you fall on the line, that's part of the problem, because that means that you could very well be perpetuating and promoting the problem that you think you're being an ally for. That makes you just as dangerous as the cis European man, as far as I'm concerned. If you don't even know what side of the fence you fall on, you should at least know where you fall. Are you with us or are you against us? It's very simple. And in this case, I'm speaking as African people, yes, but I'm also speaking, are you in favor of not promoting and perpetuating the oppression of African women and marginalized genders of African descent? You have to decide how you are participating in that. And you can participate and resist it, and you can participate and be for it. So you need to decide what that is for you. You need to have an honest conversation about that. Are you walking around expecting marginalized genders to serve you and smile for you? That's something you need to think about. And where does that come from? And how are you dealing with it? Are you going to change after this conversation, or are you going to continue to do it because it's not a big deal? Like, you have to think about that. You also need to understand this is why Pan-African Women's Day exists. Reason number one is because people shouldn't have to tolerate that kind of nonsense. And again, how are you expecting me to organize my people and to resist colonialism and white supremacy if I don't even feel respected by you? If I don't even feel valued by you? More importantly, why should I give you my labor? Maybe I am really good at organizing people. Maybe people actually will listen to me, which is usually the case when you are a marginalized person or a woman. You do have power in that regard because people follow you because they know that you hold a lot of social capital based on all the labor that you do and all the work that you do. So it would actually be a disadvantage to the African masses if they did not get on board with addressing the other oppressions that marginalized and African women face, because they need us. They need us. You need us. That's the bottom line. If we all decided that we just didn't want to help fight anymore, that would really be a disadvantage. Would really be a disadvantage. Not to mention, there's more of us than there are men. So there's that too, right? So you gotta, like, how this is like, what is it? Self-preservation. Like, you got to think this through, you all. You got to think this through. And again, I said this last weekend, I'll say it again. If you are a woman or a non-male and you don't see a problem with misogyny, you don't see a problem with patriarchy, you don't see a problem with sexism, you are a part of the problem. And we will be fighting you, ideologically at least, maybe even physically. It depends. You are a part of the problem. If you are going to get in our way to protect those systems and to make sure those systemic oppressions continue what they are, we will definitely have to take you down. Because I don't want to live in a world where those systemic oppressions exist. I don't want to live in a world where any of them exist. But I certainly don't want to live in a world where I have fought to organize my people and I'm still being devalued and disrespected. That is not okay. That's just not okay. It's not okay at all. So we have to kind of take responsibility for that. And Pan-African Women's Day provides African women with the opportunity to talk about those issues. that they are more likely to be targeted by, that they are more likely to have a disparity for because of the positions that they are in. I'm talking about their privilege. I'm talking about their value that is perceived and not perceived. I'm talking about their self esteem. I'm talking about their collective efficacy. I'm talking about their ability to feel like they have power when they live in a world where the world does not feel like they have power. I'm talking about their ability to unify and to revolutionize themselves. You know, more and more, if you're doing research, you're learning that there are policies that are being put in place around the world, whether it's in Cuba, right? Whether it's in different parts of Africa, where people are starting to understand there is a purpose of giving agency to non-male people and to women so that they can decide if they want to maintain being in relationships. And in the case that they decide they don't want to be, there are more and more divorce parties that are happening. I would argue that's another form of patriarchy and another form of misogyny. If you want someone to stay in a relationship that they are clearly unhappy in and they are clearly not comfortable staying in, and because they don't have power to make decisions to divorce, you are deciding for them, just like you're deciding what to do with their bodies, just like you're giving them the permission to not terminate a pregnancy or to terminate one. These are all examples of oppression, you all. And for men, I think it's harder for you all to really understand these things because you don't have to give birth and you don't have to think about giving birth. So the lack of agency when you're not able to do something, it's hard for you to wrap your brain around that. And I guess I could understand that, but I guess the only example I could give would be if you needed to go to the bathroom really, really badly and your bladder was at capacity, very, very full, and you could not release your bladder because everywhere you went, they said that we don't let people use public restrooms. There are no public restrooms. And in your domicile where you live, there is no bathroom, there is no toilet, there is no drain, there is no way for you to release your bladder. So you're just always walking around with a heavy bladder, which means you can't even intake more water because you're very discomfortable and you're unable to do the things you need to do. That would be like a woman or a marginalized person needing to complete a pregnancy full term when it has already indicated that there are complications that will arise, not to mention potential fatalities or issues with the baby, right? And if this person is saying they don't want to give birth, that should be the end of it. We should not be choosing to make sure that they still stay. But yet, these are the conditions that people are forced to live with. And this is why these are issues that come up in Pan African Women's Day. And this is why males and men need to listen instead of turning their ears off. Just because it doesn't apply to you because you can't do it doesn't mean you're not a part of the problem, and it does not mean that you can't be a part of the solution. Just a quick shout out for the photo here. We see women in rural Libya, North Africa during the Jahamaria and the ruling of Gaddafi. As you all remember, Muammar Gaddafi, was instrumental in helping these people create a water irrigation system where they were suffering from dehydration. Their crops were dying. They had no way to fulfill their nutrients in the earth because the land was dry. And they were able to create a water irrigation system that was not only systematically beneficial for all of the people of Libya, but it had helped save so many lives in terms of restoration of water and conservation. And Obama shot it down and killed thousands of people because he knew that Gaddafi wanted to promote a United States of Africa. So again, like when we think about the chaos of Libya today, we need to understand that when Gaddafi was helping, that's when the world and the country was actually thriving. And if you're not careful, you won't be told that story, so you'll miss that critical piece of information. Next slide, please. As I said, these kind of conversations come up more importantly in Pan African Women's Day, and it's really an opportunity for us to talk about how these issues are really preventing us from achieving the one unified socialist Africa we're fighting so hard for. These issues are talking about ways that we need to be focused on the new threats that are on the horizon, such as AI. Right? I know that there are, as you all know, I do a lot of maternal health research, and there is research that supports that. Obviously, like you can ask, hey, Google, what medications you should take if you're pregnant so that they don't conflict with you being pregnant, or if you're nursing and giving your baby human milk, which medications to take. You can ask Siri, you can ask Alexa, you can do that. But how do we really know what the evidence is behind these AI systems giving that information? Where's that information coming from when they're citing it? How do they know what's best for that particular person's body? And what are the consequences, medically or not, that we really don't know about because of that? I would argue sex trafficking, human trafficking continues to be a big issue. I would argue there are several trigger warning. There are several rape kits that have still not been they have still not been assessed. And I know different counties that have such a backlog, it's very difficult to even consider if the data can even be trusted at this point. I don't think that there is as much of a value behind testing those kind of things because it's all about, making this piece where we want to think about how both sides need to argue what happened when the bottom line is, I think Dulce said it best. I had a video last week that I wasn't able to show you all, but I can quickly summarize again. She was being interviewed by Trevor Noah, and she said, society teaches us as women that we need to protect ourselves. We need to learn self-defense. We need to buy these weapons. We need to buy mace and pepper spray and get a taser. And we need to figure out how to use these things. We shouldn't grow our hair long because if we do, they're more likely to pull our hair from our ponytail. I want you all to think about this kind of stuff because if you're a male, these are probably not things you have to consider. You can just walk in the world and you don't have to worry about your safety in the same way. And maybe you do, but I guarantee you, you don't have to worry about it the same way I do, where I'm constantly double checking every decision I'm making because I don't want to be abducted. That's not something that goes through everybody's head. So, like, that's privilege by itself, and we just need to name it. So, these ideas that Dulce is speaking of, where we're being trained to do all these things to protect ourselves, and then when we are violated, when someone does harm us, when they do disrespect us, when they don't respect our boundaries, then we have to be questioned with the idea of whether or not our story is believable. I think that's absurd. And I think it is classic that she was able to make that connection because you want to do all these things and you're telling us from a capitalist standpoint, you're going to profit off of our money because we are buying all these things, right? So then we buy all these things and you benefit from our money. And then when we tell you what happened to us, then we have to like weigh the options and look at the evidence. And I'm not saying that all the time it's true. I'm saying this is why people choose not to say anything. And I was one of those people. This is why people choose not to say anything because they already know that their credibility is going to be weighed. And I think that that is absurd and nonsense. But again, when you don't hold power in society, this is what happens. So we need to think about that, you all. Think about all the kits that I said that weren't even tested and think about how that's probably even a fraction of the amount of harmful events that have actually taken place because that means that most people probably didn't even say anything when it happened because they didn't want to deal with the BS of having to go through all the questions and going through all the investigative research only to find out that nothing really changed, only to find out that nothing really moved the needle. And more importantly, you went through all of that, you invested all that labor, and you really didn't get what you wanted out of it because you still feel violated. So these are the things, you all. PAW provides African women with an institution where they can create, they can design how to take down and deconstruct patriarchy in all forms, such as this multitude of hate against African women. We can have conversations about that. How is propaganda enforcing this idea for society to hate African women? And how is African women fighting against it or perpetuating it? Again, everything is dialectical, right? We have to look at it from both sides. This could be from social media. It can be from harmful lyrics in a song. It could be from different videos that people are posting. It could be from how people are raising their children. Okay. It could be from the expectations that people have for me in education, and I'll turn it back over to Baba Ajamu, what I have realized is not only are there disparities between the evaluations that I get from my students compared to the evaluations that males get and compared to the evaluations that African men get. And I've also noticed that in most cases, students feel like they can talk to me a certain kind of way because the society perpetuates that I don't deserve respect, right? But they would not talk to their cis male instructors the same way that they would talk to me. And what they don't know is that I will bring that up and tell them that because I don't deserve to be talked to like that. So I'm not going to talk to you like that. But again, like the kind of labor that a person has to do when they're oppressed, where they have to constantly protect themselves in situations where they are being disrespected. I want you to think about if you deal with that every day. I want you to think about how some people have to deal with it every microsecond of every fraction of every day, right? Because that's what it looks like when you're oppressed. So these are things that we need to think about. And this is why Pan-African Women's Day should be a safe space for all of us to talk about these things. And in some cases, it'll be a safe space for people who are not women or marginalized genders to practice listening, not hearing, but listening. Hearing is where there's no action required. Listening is where you understand the full scope of the issue and you are destined to do an action beyond that to address that. I'll turn it over to you, Baba Jamu.
Ashe, obrigada, asante sana, midasi, thank you very much. Just a couple of quick, just for accuracy. If you want to look at the Pan African Women's Day videos that Shakura mentioned, the actual website is AAPRP-INTL, like for international.org, because we're an organization, we're not a corporation. So that's important because if you type in com, you won't come up with anything, or what you do come up with is probably something very different than what we're talking about. And then the other part of that is, yeah, we definitely, without question, want to promote these events. And we also I wasn't able to get the flyer on, but we have another one on August 8th in Los Angeles. So we'll talk about that one as well when we get to the end. But reason three for why Pan African Women's Day is so important, right? Is that Pan African Women's Day is the perfect institution to attack and break up all of these attacks, all of these efforts, rather, to turn African women against one another. There are tons of this on social media, and I can't prove it today, but I'm sure within 10 years, you will have all the ample evidence you need to indicate that a lot of these social media campaigns are being coordinated by terrorist entities like the Federal Bureau of Investigation and all of these terrorists and scumbags. And the reason why they would do something like that, because I know some of us would hear that and say, "Well, why would they do that?" Well, they've been doing it for the last 100 years. I mean, there's a long track record of the FBI, for example, the Central Intelligence Agency, Mossad from Israel, M16 from Britain, the French Secret Service, all of these terrorist, imperialist intelligence agencies. There's ample track record of them engaging in nonstop activities to turn African people against one another. Because even though we are so confused about this, so confused. And the reason why we're confused is largely because of their efforts against us. They understand clearly that our unity is their demise. And so they make every effort to turn Africans in the US against Africans in the Caribbean, turn Africans in the Caribbean against Africans in the US, turn Africans in Africa against Africans in the US. There's so much about that on social media, advancing those backward concepts. Turn African men against African women. I just saw a video before this program started, and it's this dude that looks like he couldn't read a book if you put a pistol to his temple on the camera talking about the reason why black men, and I'm just talking like this because this is how the clown sounded. The reason why black men are turning to white women and non-black women is because those women, that's what he said, those women show respect for us. They show respect for us. And when I watched that, I thought, where the hell can you go to see even the slightest shred of evidence to back that statement up? That doesn't exist. I mean, there's no anybody that's been in serious relationships, you know that no matter what your ethnicity, no matter what it is that is, no matter if you're in a cis heterosexual relationship, in a queer relationship, whatever the case may be, the relationship is going to be a struggle. There are no relationships between any two or more people that are based on this grandiose notion of paradise every day of your life. That's anybody that believes that. I can show you where you can get tickets to Disneyland since you live your life based on fantasy. We were just at Disneyland last month. It's a lot of fun. You should go there to fulfill your since you refuse to live in reality, you can live in fantasy. So that's just not real. But this is the reality that we're faced with all these campaigns. We are not African, these so called foundational Black Americans. Like anybody that would choose an acronym for themselves, FBA, that sounds so close to FBI. You know they're not thinking about what's in the best interest. They don't have a collective vision for what's in the best interest of anybody that would claim something like that. Oh, I'm FBA. It sounds like you said you're FBI. Anybody that would say that clearly is not thinking about the vision of what's in the best interest of our people. So these are the challenges that we have, right? And it's all really, if you think about it logically for a second, I don't care what these people say, what they believe, I don't care how much money and resources they have to wage these anti-Africa social media campaigns, because that's really where it is. Like you don't these people don't come out in public on a large scale and say this stuff because they can't support it. I remember I did do a conference a few years ago at the University of Marseille. I gave a workshop, and some of these young people were in there, and they were pushing this FBA line. And the one young man said, well, Ivan Van Sertima was, of course, a scholar, wrote the book, they came before Columbus, and he was saying Ivan Van Sertima was illustrating truth that we've always been in America. Like we aren't from Africa. That's what this young man was saying. We've always been in America. And he cited Van Sertima's book as evidence of that. And I let him finish. And there were like 200 people in the room. And I said, well, fortunately, because, in this day and age where we have so much nonsense and your truth is your truth, and we don't really understand the accurate concept of objective truth. Fortunately, I'm old enough so that when I was a student like you, that's what I told him, we actually brought Dr. Van Sertima, when he was living then, to California State University, Sacramento, where I was a student. We brought him there. Our Pan African Student Union, we brought him there. We had dinner with him. We spent time with him. We had a conversation with him. We bought his book. We all read the book together. Fortunately, I have that experience. So, since I've read the book, I know that what he talks about is that Africans came to the Western world, not that we were always here. His book is clearly stating that we're Africans people and we come from Africa. No question about that. And when we talked to him, he reiterated that. So, this is why we have this problem today. But the truth is, there's only one difference between all people of African descent. And I'm going to quote myself because I said this 40 years ago, and I still say it. I thought of it 40 years ago, and I was proud of myself. But it's actually was a good statement. And the statement is: if you're African born in the Caribbean, if you live in Europe, if you're African in Africa, if you're African in Canada, if you live in South America, if you're in the U.S., the only difference between us is your great grandmother ran left and mine ran right. That is the only difference. If my great grandmother would have ran left, the Spanish probably would have got her, and I would probably be from the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or one of those countries. If she would have ran straighter and veered left, the Portuguese would have probably got her, and then I would probably be speaking Portuguese in Brazil. If she would have backed up and ran the other way, maybe I'd still be at home in Africa speaking Wolof or Fulani. But she ran right. So the British got her, the US got her, and I'm sitting my black ass here speaking English, a slave in the Western Hemisphere. That is the only difference between all of us. And none of you goddamn idiots can say anything to refute that. That's a fact. That's a fact. You can't say anything to refute that. All you can do is make up conjure up these wild stories, these wild fantasies. That's all you can do. But you cannot refute all of the historical evidence supports what I just said. All of the physiological evidence supports what I just said. That's why your dumb ass is sitting here in the US with the sickle cell anemia trait, which clearly comes from nowhere else in the world except Africa because of malaria. But you're sitting here with it talking about, I'm not no African. My people never were in Africa. I mean, nothing supports you other than the rocks floating between your ears. Nothing else supports you. So that's just important that we understand that. Now there's another saying that said that's just as good, if not better than the one I came up with. And it's that the only difference between us is a boat stop. That's absolutely true as well. So, why Pan African Women's Day is important? Reason four, because our unity is a threat. We don't know that because we're not serious about collective unity among African people. Most of us are only interested in a payday for ourselves individually. Most of us view all of these things like reparations is just a way for us individually to make some money. We don't even have a vision of collective progress for the masses of African people. Anybody who subscribes to any kind of xenophobic, patriarchal, anti-woman, anti-gender binary, non-gender binary position is not interested in the unity of African people. I don't care what they say. Anyone who does that is not interested in that. Someone like Umar Johnson, for example, who is pro-capitalist, never never says anything, has said many anti-communist things, so pro-capitalist, talks about businesses, that's pro-capitalism, patriarchal to the core, homophobic to the core. You are not going to unite large segments of our people. So there's no way he can call himself a pan Africanist because pan means what? You all, it means all. It means all. So he is not a pan Africanist. What he should call himself is, well, I'm a capitalist, patriarchal, homophobic African. That's what I am. And get some acronyms to fit that. What would that be? It would be C for capitalist, P, CPH, CPHA. I'm a CPHA. I'm a capitalist, patriarchal, homophobic African. That's what he is, not a Pan African. Pan Africanist. It's not that. So, Pan African Women's Day is an institution that reminds us of these contradictions. It permits us to place the focus where it belongs, Africa. That's where it belongs. Because I'm smart enough to know that my problems and our problems as African people did not start in Sacramento, California, did not start in California, did not start in the United Snakes of America. They started when crooks and criminals robbed us and created the chattel slave trade. And for those of you dumbasses who comment every week with the hate mail, come with your comments. Understand what chattel slavery is. Don't come with no dumb. I just now someone comment on Shakura on the video we did on patriarchy, and this person is saying, well, what is feminism? Man, I'm so allergic to stupidity. Sorry. They said, what is feminism? And I just responded that we said nothing about feminism in our presentation. And his example, is it 50-50 wages? I'm like, and even if we did say something, we don't support bourgeois feminism like you're defining. Go back and watch the video and then talk to us. Don't waste our time, right? Because we use Pan African Women's Day to make the point that the future stability and growth of African women everywhere is tied to the strength of Africa. It's tied to a movement to liberate Africa, but it has to have as an equal component, if not a higher one, the focus on eradicating patriarchy. There can be no liberation of Africa under patriarchy. That cannot, those two concepts are incompatible. And Pan African Women's Day also stresses the importance of women, non gender binary people, and men seeing the fight against patriarchy as all of our responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. And so Shakur can tell you, if I'm lying, that's why 3 years ago, at that time, we didn't have any women organizers in the APRP in Sacramento. Sacramento's the kind of town where, trust me, I've recruited tons of women into the APRP. That's not the issue. And if you took that from what I just said, you just don't know what you're talking about. The problem is that no one stays here. Okay, they don't stay here, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But people go to other places. This is not a place where people stay. I've left and come back and came back. So because of that, at that time we didn't have any, but I took it as a responsibility to organize Pan African Women's Day and did it 3 years ago, did it last year, and we're doing it here again this year. And so that's a beautiful thing. And a lot of that work is helping us, attract women organizers, and we'll do our work like we always have done. The keynote speaker that is speaking at the Pan African Women's Day program here in 2 weeks was orientated here in Sacramento. She lives at home in Africa now, but we've always done that work, and we'll continue to do that work. So why Pan African Women's Day? Reason 5. So if you look at the picture of the button, and I hope you can see the picture, you're looking at a screen of the presentation. Hopefully, you lose a lot if you're not, but the picture is of an old, outdated APRP button. And that button is probably from the 1970s. Um, but it reflects a lot of struggle, right? We have a lot of struggle in our organization. We have a lot of struggle right now in our organization. And we will always have a lot of struggle. But the button to me is symbolic because even though it's dated, even though it's worn, it reflects the spirit and the determination of the message behind it. And for me, that message is stronger than ever. Stronger than ever. Because one thing I understand clearly is that my time on the earth is limited. And I'm good with that. I'm not like a lot of people. I'm not worried about that. I'm not upset about it. I'm good with that because I have made plenty of errors, but over and above that, I've done the best that I could do to live my life in a principled way. I've not wronged people. I've helped a whole lot of people, a ton of people on a collective and individual level, many of whom who don't even appreciate it. And I'm fine with that because I didn't do it for that. I did it because it's the right thing to do, and we'll continue to do so and have built institutions that will help us move forward in our struggle for liberation, have been instrumental in helping build that. So I'm proud of my life. I'm happy about it. Even if I drop dead right now, I'm happy about it. And I think this button and what it symbolizes reflects what I'm trying to say about that in the sense that we will continue to fight. We will continue to build and struggle around the right ideas and actions. And we will get it wrong a lot of times. We will make a lot of errors, but we will not give up. We will not give up because this is what our people need. One unified socialist Africa. And I'm not going to quit this struggle because I can't reconcile how to deal with something that I have an issue with. I'm going to struggle to figure out how to deal with that issue. But that's just me. That's just how I walk through this world. I know everybody doesn't do that, and I'm not placing judgment on anybody if you don't. I'm just saying, in order for us to get free, if there's another way to do it, please let me know. If there's an easier way to do it, please let me know. All right. So Pan African Women's Day is the perfect institution to reinforce the need for revolutionary struggle, right? For organization and unity. We can't get any of this accomplished individually. That progress can only come from revolution, not reform. We have to destroy the capitalist system. We can't try to integrate in it, try to put a black face on capitalism. How has that worked out for us? We have to destroy this system. That's our work. And Pan African Women's Day is a constant reminder of that. It's a reminder that our objective has to be focused around scientific socialism. We have to be socialists. That is the solution. Capitalism in no way offers a solution to our problem. It's the reason why we have problems. It cannot be the solution. And because for all the oppressed sectors, organization and unity, these are really the only tools that you have as an oppressed person. You don't have any other tools. You don't have wealth if you're oppressed. You don't have that. And understand what I mean when I say that, because we get so confused. Even people who have money, that's not going to save them from being oppressed. Someone like LeBron James is a billionaire. He's a billionaire basketball player. He's a billionaire. He doesn't have any power. He has no power whatsoever. In fact, mostly what he has is his family, his money, and tons of racist hatred in this society. That's what he has. He can buy a house and get away from it. He can do that. But the minute he drives into town, he's not any safer from the police than you and I. His $1 billion is not going to protect him from racist Gestapo police, vigilante white supremacists. It's not going to protect him from any of that. It's not going to allow him to have a voice without being besieged. Even this clown in the White House attacked LeBron James Friday just because LeBron James joined a new team. Nothing. He's not safe from anything just because he has money. So that you can't transcend this stuff. He's not safe from the mental illness that the stress that he's under. I'm sure he's under a tremendous amount of stress because he has. If you go online, that man has so much hate coming at him. He's not, and if he wasn't African, he wouldn't have half of that hate. So you can't transcend this oppression just because you have money. You can do little things to get you away from it for a few minutes, but it's there. And there are, of course, many other reasons to support Pan African Women's Day as an international Pan African institution that it is, and that's why we do that. So we just want to say you have to remember that Pan African Women's Day is something for everybody. The only qualification is that you want peace and justice. African women, we certainly lift up Pan African Women's Day to recognize that we want them to be able to reach their full potential as human beings. We want non gender binary Africans to reach their full potential as human beings. But we know that we don't struggle in isolation. So if you're not an African woman, you're not African non-gender binary, you should still commemorate Pan African Women's Day. You should commemorate all the institutions that fight against oppression. You can be a white man. You should commemorate Pan African Women's Day. If you can't come to a program, you should tell people about it. You should tell people where programs are happening. You should try to organize a watch party for the online versions. You should do whatever you can. You can organize a watch party for this program and replay the tape for people. All white people. Why can't you do that? You can do that. We do it all the time. We do all types of programs that have nothing to do with African people because we know that we don't struggle in a vacuum. If the Palestinians win and they're fighting the Zionist state of Israel, which causes havoc for African people all over Africa, causes havoc for the African liberation movement, even in this country. The Zionist movement has caused havoc. The Zionist movement opposed and sabotaged Malcolm X, opposed and sabotaged Elijah Muhammad, opposed and sabotaged Louis Farrakhan, opposed and sabotaged Kwame Ture in the APRP, produces reports still, just to this day. They just produced one. I showed you that on here a couple of months ago, calling for people really to, you watch the video, it's on YouTube. It's called March Towards Violence. And they identify the APRP. The Zionists produced that video. And they're basically calling for people to commit acts of violence against us. So Zionism is our enemy. And if the Palestinians defeat Zionism, only a complete freaking fool would not see how that benefits us fighting for a free and united Africa. Only a fool wouldn't see that. Only a fool. Well, the Palestinians don't even like us. I don't like you, but I'll organize for you because I know unity is the solution. I can't stand your dumb ass, but I'm gonna organize and fight for you to the death because that's how we get free. Even though I can't stand you, the minute we're free, I'm not gonna want to have anything to do with you. But that's not the point. The point is that's how we move forward. If the indigenous people win, well, they don't support us. That's not the point. If they defeat, the only way they can win anything is against the US capitalist system, the Western Hemisphere capitalist system. These are our enemies in Africa for Pan Africanism. So I'm smart enough to recognize supporting their struggle supports my struggle. For those of you that would say, well, if you're giving them support, that's work that should go towards our people. People say that to me, and I do 10 times as much work for the African community as they do. I'm like, how am I missing anything? What am I missing for our people? I do way more than you. Just right now, we had an event. We do this event every Sunday. You know this. We had an event 2 weeks ago, right, Shakura, in Oakland. We're having an event this Saturday in Oakland. We have an event the following Saturday here in Sacramento, both for Pan African Women's Day. I have the self-defense classes I teach every Thursday night here in Sacramento. I'm training the activists who are doing the anti-ICE encampment in front of the ICE building here in Sacramento. I'm training them in self-defense on Tuesdays. We're getting ready to do patrols in the African community. We're doing all this work, and you telling me I'm missing, and you ain't did nothing. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. The pollution you're creating is making all of us sick. Shut up and start supporting real work and start doing something. And if you're not going to do that, then just dig a hole in the ground and jump in it and stay there forever because you're getting in our way and we don't have time or energy for nonsense, you all. We just don't. So we thank you for joining us. We want to tell you about a number of things coming up. We have next Sunday, same time, same place. We're going to be talking about revolutionary ideology. And our revolutionary ideology comes from our African culture. Like we study and respect Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin and Frederick Engels and Leon Trotsky and Mao Zedong and Wen Al Thak, Ho Chi Minh, and all of these folks. We respect them and we study them. But we know, as Amilcar Cabral told us, that ideology comes from culture. So our ideology, our revolutionary Pan-Africanist ideology comes from our African culture. And so we're going to talk to you about that next week. Our ideology, Nkrumahism, Touréism, Cabralism, takes its tenets from ideas articulated by Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, and Amilcar Cabral. So we're going to talk about that next week because somebody Friday called me a Marxist-Leninist. I'm like, I'm not a Marxist-Leninist. And there are differences between Marxist-Leninism and Nkrumahism, Touréism, and Cabralism. So we're going to talk about that. So join us. All of them are revolutionary ideologies. All of them are positive, but they do have differences. So the red and white QR code, the top left, you scan that. You can get information on this program. You can go to the Forward Ever shop, and the Forward Ever shop you can buy clothes that support the African Revolution, our African revolutionary work. So please do that. You can go to Hood Communist, the Revolutionary Pan-Africanist blog. So do that, please. Again, as we've mentioned multiple times, we have Pan-African Women's Day events coming up August 1st at the Pillars. For those of you in the Oakland Bay Area, at the Pillars at Lake Merritt, we'll be convening at 3 o'clock. Look for the red, black, and green flag. We will have a wonderful event there. We'll have food for you. We will have a presentation on Pan-African Women's Day virtually from Comrade's sister, Dr. Hannah Lucy, who is located in Azania, South Africa. So you won't want to miss that if you're in the Oakland Bay Area. And here in Sacramento, the following Saturday, August 8th, same time, 3 to 5 p.m. in McClatchy Park, 33rd Street in Oak Park here in Sacramento. Next to the exercise equipment, again, look for the red, black, and green flag. We will have another outstanding program. We will have an in-person keynote speaker, Dr. Mjiba Friwa, who is a professor of Africana Studies at the University of Legon in Ghana, in West Africa. So she's here visiting. She will be the keynote speaker at Pan-African Women's Day here in Sacramento. And we will also have a wonderful performance by Straight Out Scribes. Those of you here in this area know that they are a wonderful mother-daughter team who delivers positive messages on our existence as African people. So you won't want to miss it. We'll also have food there. Again, I don't have the flyer. Apologize for that. But there's also event for those of you in the Southern California area on Saturday, August 8th. We will have Pan-African Women's Day in Sacramento and Los Angeles at the Christ Church in South Los Angeles, 3 to 5 p.m. So you can go to the AAPRP site and see that. And if you can't find it there, reach out to us and we can give you information. If you're going to be in LA, support Pan-African Women's Day. Join the AAPRP, aaprp-intl.org. And then the black and white QR code, again, is our work in Burkina Faso to bring liberatory books there, become a monthly sponsor. If you're in Northern California, you should attend our self-defense, community self-defense class on every Thursday, 2775 Cottage Way, like cottage cheese, Cottage Way, Unit 15, 15, 2775 Cottage Way, Unit 15. We start at 6 p.m. You don't have to register. You don't have to have any previous skill. You can come. You can learn the correct art of throwing punches. You can learn the correct art of executing kicks. You can learn the correct art of sparring, of escape moves when you're grabbed from behind or in front. We go over many other things that are crucial to helping us stay safe. They are coming after us. And if you don't have a plan to defend yourself, then you're delusional. So come get organized. It doesn't cost you any money. All it costs you is a little time and dedication. So come on out. 2775 Cottage Way, Unit 15, Sacramento, 6 p.m. on Thursdays. And then lastly, my book, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. People think it's a great book. You scan the QR code next to it, and you can get information about it. There are a number of reviews on it. Other than a couple of troll ones, they're very insightful reviews on the book. Great organizing book, but also 100% of the proceeds go towards the anti-fascist work we're doing. This self-defense class, we need resources. The training of the anti-ICE encampment, I need resources. So that's what I pay for to do it. A lot of the stuff coming up in these Pan-African Women's Day events, we have to buy food. We're not a nonprofit. So we have to buy that. So when you buy this book, that helps us organize our work. So we appreciate all the support you can give us. Forward ever, backwards never. Stay strong.